Hello, and welcome to my show, Searching for Integrity. My name really is John Smith, and I'm searching for people with integrity. Why? Because our country suffers from IDD, Integrity Deficit Disorder. We have today Dr. Karen Wilner, who is a clinical psychologist, and she'll be giving us 25 to 30 minutes before before it's all over with. And a potential book is in the line. Will you want to tell us the title of that?
Sure. The title, which the publisher changes every couple of weeks. So I'm going to read it to you because I have to write it down myself to remember what it is. This title is Releasing Toxic Anger for Women, Body-Based Practices to Let Go of Negative Thoughts, Soothe Stress, and Stay True to Yourself.
Well, that's going to be quite a book.
Yeah.
And also, and especially with the topic.
Yes.
I know a little bit of this because I saw a psychologist or two or 10 over the years, a long time ago. But it's worked for me. And then one day somebody, the VA said, "Hey, you've been diagnosed as having PTSD." I said, "What's PTSD?"
Mhm.
Yeah, it's crazy. Now, what interested me most was how you don't let in any men at all. It's just going to be strictly all women.
Well, yes, that wasn't my idea. My original idea was transforming anger to love, actually, and
Ooh.
it was a book for everyone, men and women. But when you work with a publisher, you learn how to make compromises. So this, I guess, was a niche that was needed. And it also interested me because I'm interested in the health aspects of anger, and
Mhm.
women respond very differently than men do. Maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later. So I think it has value that it's aimed at women, but I agree. We all need this.
Well, I've never really seen a topic with that you're dealing with, but I'm ready to see it. I'm ready. You must be good at this.
I hope so. I'm
Yes,
trying.
yes. Let's see. Was it just before the let's say pre-publisher? Were they rolling along happy and so forth? And then they said, "Oh, it's got to only be women."
No, I don't think so. I think I had a book proposal. There's a whole thing. I have an agent and I had a book proposal, what you may know from your book. I don't know if you self-published or you went with the publisher, but the agent pitches then your proposal to different publishers. And these people wanted it. And because I don't have a huge platform, I'm not well known, I needed to kind of accept them. And then they said, this is what we think will work best, and are you willing to do it? So they asked me. I could have said no and tried to find another publisher.
Well, maybe for the first 5 or 10 minutes you heard their suggestion. I'm going to say down the 10 things that can happen that says, what's the best way to not knowing you're angry if they say they're not?
All right, well, I see this right here might be a little different for women and men, but women, uh, maybe because, well, it's again how we're acculturated and raised. When
Right.
anger in general is not an acceptable emotion for anybody, men or women. However, men can get away with it more because it's a sign of strength, vigor, leadership, knowing their own mind. Women, if they portray at least too much anger, or for some any anger, would be thought less of. So that's how little girls are raised: is don't express your anger. Now, all children here, when you're little, 2, 3, and you have a temper tantrum, most children are told that's bad one way or another, either by a facial expression or the parent just says, stop it, that's bad. So we learn very early, and this is boys and girls, that anger is not a good thing. And what happens is, as a body therapist, it gets stuck in our body. So little boys are told, you don't punch, so your shoulders get tight. And you're told not to bite another child, so you hold a lot of tension in your jaw. So it does affect you, boys and girls, and men and women.
Well, this reminds me of my younger sister. I only had one, and she learned a lot from me. I can tell you that when it comes to anger. She's not angry now, and she's doing well under her circumstances, and she's a good person. I wonder if you have a turnaway, to somebody that says, I just have to be happy all the time. Well, if it's me, I know you're happy all the time. I don't believe it.
Well, this is true, and this is a problem, because I do have people, I meet clients and just people in general who don't want to be negative at all. Even now, with what's going on in society, people will say, I'm putting my head in the sand. I don't want to know about it. So the problem with anger or any emotion like fear is chemicals. There's no such thing as anger or fear. There's chemistry. There's adrenaline. There's noradrenaline. There's cortisol. There's testosterone. So when you feel endangered, those chemicals go into your bloodstream and they stay there. Now, if your life's in danger and you start to fight or flee, the chemicals get used up and they're eliminated. However, if someone just says something kind of nasty about you and your feelings are hurt and you don't say anything, like, I can get past this, that all goes into your body and you're actually holding it in the muscles of your body. And then you don't get sick tomorrow, but 10 years up the pike, 20 years up the pike, that chemistry has an effect.
Well, when I was younger, if people said to me, you can't do that, you can't, the thing about it is that, I'm quiet about it if I didn't like what was said about me. But what I did is just waited and got even.
And let me see if I understand you. You said that people would tell you you can't do that. Is that correct?
Yes, you can't get angry.
Okay. And what did you do then?
I waited, and then after waiting, I got even.
Okay. So there you go. So, so you found an outlet by getting even, and it may have been passive aggressive where you did something sneaky. And that's kind of an interesting kind of anger because it's still a lot in your body. So that's the kind of thing that I'm working with. I want people to begin to say, I'm angry, rather to go against the early conditioning.
But that, it's so hard, to acknowledge that, to come up with it. It's kind of like showing your underwear in public, to an extent.
As long as we think about it that way, that will be true. But if we see it as showing our authenticity in public, or who we truly are, or our opinions, anger doesn't have to be negative. It shouldn't be negative. So first of all, let me just say there's a couple kinds of anger. There's the healthy anger, which has to do with, oh my God, my life's in danger. I've got to defend myself. We're all for that, right? That's why we have it.
Right.
And we don't want to avoid it if our life's in danger. We want to fight or flee or do whatever we have to do.
Right.
Then there's the kind of anger that you're kind of talking about where there's a slight or someone kind of triggers you. Maybe they say something bad about you. Maybe they break your window. I don't know. And we try to ignore that. That happened to me earlier today. I remembered an incident where I tried to ignore a phone call where someone was very nasty. And I realized I was still angry about it because I never did anything about it. So it's in my body. I have what we call somaticized it. So we need to not look at it as dirty laundry. We need to look at it as fresh, clean laundry. And I want to talk about it with you and build a bridge and repair any problems.
Yes, I can see that. I guess maybe there's some people can actually explode about their anger, and you don't know where the trigger is, or the dynamite is. Is that something that's all the person in, or they find some, clinical?
I'm not sure what, I mean, people do explode. I'm not sure what your question is about it. Is it what?
Well, do you want them to practice exploding or recognition, acknowledgement, that type of thing?
Right. You want people to not explode because explode is bad for them as well as for everyone around them. So if I explode, my energy goes up into my head. It could affect me. I could have a migraine or a stroke. It comes up into my chest. The number one killer in the United States is for both men and women is cardiovascular disease. And anger is strongly related to cardiovascular disease. So if my anger comes up into my chest, it sets me up for a heart attack or a stroke or something.
Right.
So no explosions, ladies and gentlemen, no explosions. What you want to be able to do is calm down first. That's the most important thing. Do not even talk about your anger until you've reached a level of rationality and calmness.
Right.
And there's lots of ways to do that. We can talk about some of them. Once you're calm, talk about it, but in a tactful, positive way, relationship building, not relationship destroying.
Well, I had another flashback. I wasn't a big guy in high school, but I was a 140-pound middle linebacker,
Wow.
and it served me well when the anger came, because the other team is always trying to get the middle linebacker out of there.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's what propelled me at that time, at least during that game of 60 minutes.
Now that interests me. Could you actually feel anger, or you just felt compelled to? I'm not sure. Don't know enough about football, but to know what the middle linebacker does. But did that kind of feed you on? Did you feel angry at the moment, or you just felt like I've got to fight?
No, you don't fight. You have to wait
Okay.
until you can get it back even.
Okay.
That's what you do.
All right.
And it wells up and it wells up and it wells up until I get more anger there doing that than waiting on the other guy. That they're always
You're bringing up something very positive, John, which is how we can use our anger to work for us. Letters to the editors, or even people who write books because of different cruel experiences they've had in life. So, and in your case, you're talking about sports. So moving these chemicals, this chemistry into something positive is very, very good.
Well, I can see that now as I look back. One thing I can't do much of is be angry around my wife a whole lot.
Uh-huh.
Because she's telling me, stop your anger. And I said, I'm not angry. I'm not angry.
Well, I mean, she's saying stop being angry, but maybe you're putting out, or not just you, I'm talking to you out there in the audience, that maybe I put out things that make us appear angry at somebody else, tone of voice, tightening in the jaw. Tone of voice is a big one. So maybe you're saying I'm not angry, but you might sound angry.
Well, it is and it isn't. When I got back from Nam, I was a drill sergeant, and that gave me a certain anger at the troops. You know, that's just the way it was.
Sure.
They got to get better. And it was a big surprise. You know, I was the honorable, the drill sergeant school,
Mhm.
and I was the honor graduate.
Wow.
I guess I had the best anger.
Okay, so it sounds like in some ways your anger has served you well, and maybe uh, anger serves others of us well too. But it can be destructive in relationships if we don't own it. It's better to say, I'm angry, than just talk in a tone of voice that's judgmental and critical of the other person.
Right, that's
And
true.
I think it's important not to blame the other person and not to make you statements. When you're angry, say, I'm angry. Don't say you did this to me. That's the worst thing for a marriage.
Oh yes, I do that. I've never said that before.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm looking at the another list that you put together for us, for me. Um, do do we find that anger goes? There's something like a seed or something way back. It's not like something that works against you right now. It's just you're carrying over and over and over as
Mhm.
you grow up and through adulthood.
Right. Well, that's, I think, fascinating to me, anyhow. That most of this starts when we're children, because as children, we have little control over our lives. I remember I was born during wartime, and I lived with my grandfather. Well, my father came back from the service, they took me away. I was 3 years old. I immediately broke out in hives. Hives can be a sign of anger and distress. So I
Right.
had no way to verbalize that I was angry that I had to leave my grandfather. So now in life, you could, that pattern could repeat over and over again, except hopefully as a psychologist, I've observed it and I'm working with it. But every time I have to leave something or am pulled away from something, that could be upsetting and bring up that old anger. So it's true that something could happen at 1 or 2 or even in the womb, and you keep repeating it, repeating it, and repeating it. In fact, one of my chapters in my book is called Uncover. Let's uncover the source of this anger.
Oh, it's a great chapter name. Great chapter.
Mhm.
Uh, I wonder how much parents can comment. I see my own answer here. If your parents are always arguing with each other. Um, Actually, I have a son-in-law and my daughter, and they've got three boys.
Mm.
Uh, one of them is 1 month old.
Mm.
The other two are 3 and 6.
Okay.
And I just can't stand it. They're just yelling and screaming and the whole time, the whole time.
So So I want to congratulate you on your 3 grandchildren. They sound great. And are you saying that the parents are yelling and screaming at each other, or are they yelling and screaming at the children?
Well, the yelling and screaming is the children because they've listened to a lot of the anger of the mom and dad. And we only figured that out in the last, few months.
I see.
Uh,
Well, yeah, so that's not really great for kids to have to be around that kind of stress and tension because either they take it, it makes them feel unsafe. Like, what if my
Sure.
parents split up and I have no one to take care of me? And it can be very wounding to just not be in a calm environment. So, when a couple has that much tension, it'd be good to do some work with a couples therapist or even a minister or anyone that would sit down and help them understand what the underlying issues are for them. People are stressed out right now. Adults are stressed out. And having 3 children is very stressful, particularly a young family like that one. But they still need to deal with whatever is at the bottom of it, because it may be things they're carrying from their own childhood.
Right, right. Interesting now. What do you see in people that are calling you, coming to you after war broke out here in Israel?
Well, the war just broke out in Israel, so I mean, I've gotten some requests online, but no one said why they were calling or coming right now. So I don't know what I'll see, but I do think, well, since COVID, I mean, it's been one thing after another. There's just so much stress right now in COVID, and a lot of people didn't cope well with it and were very alone and lonely. And then immediately after that, the war between Russia and Ukraine, and now this thing with Israel and the Palestinians and Hamas. I don't think anyone feels totally comfortable in their own body, and or safe on the planet. So I think people generally don't call about public events. They call about something going on in their own life. But
Mhm.
public events affect us. We can't, we live in this milieu. We live on a planet floating around in the universe. So that's kind of scary right there.
Well, I would think so. And I don't know the outcome, whether it's going to be a month or 10 years. Who knows what that
Right.
goes on. And it affects worldwide, I think.
Yeah.
That people see it and don't like it. They don't like to see dying.
Right.
And it's just not good for you.
Right. Right. So yeah, but that's above my pay grade to know even how to deal with all these different cultures and conflicts.
Right. I bet you all those cultures will boil down to the being the same.
Mhm.
That's my idea about what that is.
Right.
Uh, it's just a shame what's going on.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. Vision. The road to healthy anger may be a wee bit challenging.
Well, again, this book was written for women, but now that you and I are talking, I'm thinking that this applies to men too. So when women are taught to not say I feel angry, or I'm angry, or I'm annoyed, I'm irritated, I'm unhappy with what's happening here. And so it's a big step to say, I'm angry, I want this to change. Now, what happens is when you say you're angry, the other person who's listening doesn't say, oh, thank you for sharing that. That's lovely to hear. You don't get that, right?
Not at
You get,
all.
what are you talking about? What's wrong with you? So immediately the other person's on the defensive. So
Oh,
then a big fight starts where and someone ends up exploding because you keep pouring more oil on the fire,
right.
or someone just shuts up and shuts down and leaves the room.
Yeah.
So my thoughts about this whole thing is, and again, I was thinking about women, but I think this applies to men, is
Yes.
that you don't have to learn how to listen. You have to learn how to listen to someone who's disagreeing with you, or even name calling. If somebody calls me a name, I have to stand there and take it. And if I reply, I'm not going to pour more oil on the fire. I might just come back and say, I hear you. However, I still want it to be a certain way. So, in other words, we don't have to back down, but we don't have to set the room on fire. And that's kind of what you were talking about with your, I don't know if it was your son and daughter-in-law or daughter and son-in-law, but
Mhm.
it's just too much energy that's kind of exploding around and it's not grounded. So I want anger to be grounded. I want it to be vocalized. But I want you to be able to listen to the other person. I mean, you raised the Israel thing. Well, we have to listen to both sides. And it's the same thing in a relationship. Both people need to be heard.
I agree. And I'm glad that your phone still rings because you're probably going to help a lot of people. That'd be my guess. Um, I want to thank you for coming on the show. It's been intuitive, I would say. Um, and my listeners, I'm sure, enjoyed it. And I want to thank them for hanging in there again for another episode of Searching for Integrity. And let's see, the best part of this is so long and happy trails to all.